Welcome, ladies, gentlemen, and everything in between to the Count Crane Show, the show where I talk about whatever I feel like, and we have fun whilst doing it. In this episode, I review the latest addition to the Jurassic Park / World franchise, Jurassic World Rebirth. Directed by Gareth Edwards and written by David Koepp, Rebirth follows Black Widow, Anthony Bridgerton, Blade, and a small group of mercenaries as they travel to an abandoned ancient island home to various Jurassic World rejects, with the goal of extracting their blood for a cure to heart disease. Of course, things go wrong when they have to rescue a stranded family, get shipwrecked on the island, and have to survive the numerous monstrosities it holds. I'll be honest, I pretty much lost interest in the Jurassic franchise after Dominion, but the trailers for this movie seemed promising. And now, having seen it, does it live up to that potential? Well, it's a mixed bag. Did I enjoy this movie? Yes. Do I think it's good? Not really. This film has a lot of issues. First and foremost, the story. It's a pretty basic plot, which isn't bad on paper, but the execution of said plot is rushed and bloated. The way the film plays out feels more like a compilation of action scenes rather than a cohesive plot, with few scenes in between the creature encounters for the characters to breathe and develop. And they acquire all the DNA they need by the end of the second act, which makes the finale with the mutants feel tacked on because the main story engine has run out of gas. And this rushed pacing also affects the character arcs, which are less arcs and more character leaps. Zora, Scarlett Johansson's character, starts off as a mercenary who's only interested in the mission for the money. But then after one conversation with Dr. Henry Loomis, she does a complete 180 and wants to make the cure open source. There's also no deeper theme to this movie's story, it's just mercenaries going to Dinosaur Island to collect dino DNA. Now there is a recurring idea about making the most of your life and not wasting the time you have. The dinosaurs on the mainland are dying because they're not adapted to the modern day Earth's climate. Characters talk about lost loved ones, and how precious time is and how you shouldn't take it for granted. And the whole mission is about creating a cure for heart disease. But again, due to the film's quick pacing, this theme is never fully explored. And speaking of unexplored, this film completely wastes the potential of dinosaurs on the mainland set up by Fallen Kingdom and Dominion, by killing most of them off and limiting them to the equator, all so that we can have yet another story about people getting stranded on Dinosaur Island. This was an incredibly poor idea that not only undoes what those movies set up, but also limits where the franchise can go from here. Also, the idea that people don't care about dinosaurs is ludicrous. You're telling me that dinosaurs have been brought back from extinction, are roaming free on the mainland causing disruption to people's lives, and are now dying off in droves, and no one cares? As for the characters, they're also a mixed bag. I like the main trio of Zora, Henry, and Duncan, but I feel that's less due to the writing of the characters and more due to the charisma of the actors. Henry is easily my favorite of the entire cast though. I like how he's this fish-out-of-water scientist amongst these hardened mercenaries, and he's a dinosaur nerd, which automatically makes him the most relatable character in the cast to me. As stated earlier, Zora's arc is rushed, and her backstory of losing a teammate during a bombing and her mother to heart disease is never brought up after the first act. Same with Duncan, whose background of losing his child and being divorced from his wife is never mentioned after Act 1 and doesn't come into play until the last 5 minutes when he sacrifices himself to save the family from the D-Rex. Which isn't even a sacrifice because he manages to evade the Rex. Somehow. The rest of the cast is unremarkable. The villain is your generic run-of-the-mill evil CEO whose only interest is money. The other mercenaries receive no development, so their deaths carry no emotional weight. The only death that got a reaction out of me was Leclerc's, who gets gruesomely swallowed whole by Quetzalcoatlus. And the family is likable, but ultimately pointless. They feel like they're in a completely different movie because they spend most of the runtime separate from the rest of the group, and their story has no bearing on the main mission. However, like I said, I really enjoyed this film, and that's mainly because of the cinematography and the dinosaurs themselves. This is a beautiful film to look at, with some really striking shots like the Titanosaurus herd in the valley and the D-Rex in the dark only illuminated by Duncan's flare. The film does a masterful job at capturing the scale of these animals, making them feel imposing and larger than life. And the scenes with said dinosaurs are the highlight of the movie. The Mosasaurus and Spinosaurus boat scenes, the Quetzalcoatlus nest raid, and the T-Rex raft scene are all fun, tense action scenes. And the Titanosaurus scene is beautiful and majestic. The animals themselves also look great. Standout designs include the Titanosaurus, the T-Rex, and the Quetzalcoatlus, which I didn't like at first, but over time has grown on me. Although I am confused as to why the skeleton we see in the museum is of the Rebirth Quetzalcoatlus and not the Dominion version, even though that's the one we see in the Cretaceous prologue of that film, and this one is some kind of mutated experiment. The only animals I didn't care for were the Equilops and the mutants. The Equilops serves no purpose in the story and only exists to be a cute marketable plushie. Also, why did they take it back to the mainland at the end, even though dinosaurs can't survive outside the equator? And the Mutadons and D-Rex are very much a case of style over substance. Sure, they look scary and menacing, but they're just generic movie monsters that look more like rejected alien or Star Wars creatures than dinosaurs. There is nothing dinosaurian about these mini dragons and mutated rancor. They're not even interesting movie monsters because nothing they do is special or unique. The Mutadons have wings, yet are mostly confined to the inside of a gas station and cramped tunnels where they can't fly, and outside of one moment where the D-Rex grabs a helicopter, it just stands there doing nothing. You could swap the Mutadons and D-Rex for regular Velociraptors and a T-Rex, and nothing would change. Compare this to the Indominus Rex, which regularly did things a normal dinosaur couldn't, like camouflage or communicate with raptors. There's not even a thematic reason for the existence of the mutants, because the laboratory and the experiments done there have no bearing on the plot and are barely explored. The mutants feel like a gimmick that was thrown into the movie at the last minute because of how poorly implemented they are into the film's plot, and how little screen time they get. Outside of a quick scene where they attack a Velociraptor, the Mutadons do nothing until the third act, and the D-Rex, who is all over the marketing for this movie, is on screen for less than 5 minutes. It shows up briefly during the prologue, and then vanishes entirely until the last 15 to 10 minutes of the film. It's so irrelevant to most of the movie, you'd be forgiven for forgetting it even exists until it shows up again. And the prologue that's supposed to build the D-Rex up as this massive threat is completely undermined by the fact that the only reason this beluga rancor escapes is because a Snickers wrapper got sucked into an air vent, causing the entire facility to shut down.
You serious?
Yes, I am. When I saw this scene in the cinema, I just started laughing because of how ridiculously stupid the whole situation is. Also, why do the workers at this place need hazmat suits? Was there a line explaining this that I missed? If there is, can someone tell me? In the end, I give Jurassic World Rebirth a 5 out of 10. Okay. This is a very flawed film with a rushed, overstuffed story and fairly bland characters that's elevated by its cinematography and dinosaur encounters. If you're only after creature thrills, this movie should suffice. But if you want something a little deeper, look elsewhere. On to you, folks. What do you think of this movie? Do you like it? Dislike it? What do you think of the mutants? What do you want to see from this franchise next? And was I the only one disappointed we didn't see the Nucleostes in action? Leave your answers in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the show and want to see more, like, subscribe, share, you know the drill. And tune in next time for whatever out of the hat discussion I have next.
He's just standing there, menacingly!